Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. One of the techniques magicians use is often called misdirection. They get you to look at one hand, and meanwhile the other hand that you don't notice is doing something else. It's often thought that politicians do the same sort of thing. They may say and do one thing, but the real reasons behind it are all often hidden. This week, as we approach commemorating the Reformation, I am inviting us to consider some often overlooked Lutheran voices. These are people who were important to the Reformation, but who didn't or who don't get noticed as much as Luther himself. Today we want to consider one of the most important people to the Protestant Reformation who may have remained a Roman Catholic all his life, Frederick the Wise. Frederick III, or Frederick the Wise, as he is also known, was the Prince Elector of Saxony, which meant not only that he governed the region, but he was also one of those who would choose and elect the Holy Roman Emperor. In fact, at one point, Pope Leo X wanted Frederick to accept the role of Holy Roman Emperor, but Frederick supported Charles V after Charles agreed to repay an almost 100-year-old debt to Saxony. Something else about Frederick that was interesting involved relics. At this time, the Roman Catholic Church was interested in relics of events from the Bible, and it was also the time of indulgences, works or fees people could offer to get them or a loved one out of purgatory. In his castle church, Frederick's inventory in 1518 listed 17,443 items, including a thumb from St. Anne, a twig from Moses' burning bush, hay of the Holy Manger, and milk from the Virgin Mary. Money was paid in order to venerate these relics, and thus escape years in purgatory. According to some calculations, a diligent and pious person who rendered appropriate devotion to each of those relics at that time would be able to merit 1,902,202 years worth of penance. Early in his life, Frederick, along with a friend, Johann Staupitz, founded the University of Wittenberg. Later, Staupitz became Luther's spiritual director, and Luther spent most of his career teaching at Wittenberg. The thing about Frederick, however, was the protection he offered Luther. As the Lutheran movement grew, the Roman Catholic Church undertook many efforts to stamp it out. While Frederick most likely wasn't too concerned about the theological debates or fine points, he very much believed in giving his subjects fair trials, and so he offered Luther protection. The most famous story of this involves the Diet of Worms, a conference where Luther was called to the city of Worms to defend his views. Luther had been promised safe passage to and from, but Frederick knew that often these promises were not kept. So when Luther was found guilty and declared a heretic, as he was on his way back to Wittenberg, Frederick staged a fake kidnapping and hid Luther away in Wartburg Castle, where he could remain hidden and safe. While he was there, Luther translated the Bible into German so that all could read it. And this is where the misdirection comes in. As I mentioned, Frederick wasn't so interested in the fine points of theology, but at this time in Germany, there was a growing sense of nationalism. Frederick and the other rulers were chafing at the power of the church and felt that they had the right to rule and make decisions instead. So many believe that in Luther, Frederick saw an opportunity to cast aside the power of the church and grab that power for himself. He protected Luther, but Luther also provided an opportunity for Frederick. In another area, Frederick was the first to bring horses to Germany and developed a stable and encouraged horse riding and equestrian events. The stable he founded is the oldest surviving tame stud farm in Central Europe. Frederick and Luther had little personal contact with each other, and as I indicated earlier, it seems that Frederick remained a Roman Catholic throughout his life. It is true that as he aged, he adopted more and more Lutheran tendencies, and there is a story that Frederick converted to Lutheranism on his deathbed. He had never married, so he was succeeded by his brother, who, 2 years later, established the Lutheran Church as the official church in Saxony. Frederick wasn't a theologian or a reformer, but you get the sense that without the protection he offered Luther, who knows if the Reformation would have succeeded? Maybe his misdirection pointed to the right thing after all. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.